Welcome to Kaijudo 24/7. I'm Jared Oxader, and today we will be doing the set review of Invasion Earth multi-civs. This is actually obviously going to be the longer video of the videos for the set. There are definitely far more multi-civ cards than there are of each individual set of colors. So hang in there. I'll try and make it quick though. Hopefully we can get through this pretty briskly. First up we have Chotin's Stalker Sphere, which is light water, level 5. 3000 with the ability Subverted Network. All your corrupted creatures have blocker. So I don't know if you watch my other videos, you know that I'm not 100% convinced yet as far as the corrupted creatures go. I don't know that there's like a really strong viable strategy there. I don't know. I don't know that there's a very strong strategy there. Maybe there is. I haven't done any testing with the set. This is all just like initial reactions to a lot of these cards. So it could be very strong, but I think giving all of your corrupted's blocker is, you know, it might not be bad. It gives you a lot of options when you're moving into that mid to late game for finishing. If you're playing against an aggressive deck, then this guy's obviously going to be pretty strong, because then he can set you up to be able to make proper plays with deciding who to attack with and who to leave back. And then in the control matchup, it's just kind of, well, now all of my guys can block, so if you want to Alpha Strike me, you have to answer my board state, rather than trying to, or, you know, rip the Storm Spark Blast or something, which is, you know, the game that sometimes, what sometimes happens in those matchups. But, so not bad, especially at level 5. It's just that, like, at 3000 for 5, it's kind of, I would give it oh, it's a common too. Wow. Sorry, I was just thinking how strong this might be. I don't know how strong the corrupted creatures are going to be in limited or in sealed. I got sidetracked there in my brain. Probably 2. I give it a 2. Like, it obviously be pretty good utility, but on that, like at 5 cost, I think you'd want to be doing something more to disrupt the board state. So moving on then. Fallen Keeper, level 3, Corrupted Storm Patrol, 1000, with Infusion Beams. At the end of each of your turns, untap all your corrupted creatures. Very strong. It's a very strong card. Level 3 just makes it that much better, being able to drop this dude and then turn on the gas and be very aggressive. Like, yeah, they can shield break you, but that's still, you know, getting your dudes untapped and out of the way of their creatures to be able to swing into you is still very solid. Very, very solid play. Especially with the level 5 we just passed earlier. If you can give them all blocker, swing in, they all untap, they all have blocker. I mean, it's going to blow out city in certain matchups. It is 1000 power, so obviously it is susceptible to some of the removal they printed, even in just this set, that red 2 for 1, that hits 2 1000s or less. So, I mean, I think they've probably found a really strong balance with this card, but I could definitely see this card being an issue if you end up seeing it in competitive play. So I give it a 3 comfortably. Maybe even I hesitate, maybe even a 4, maybe. Untapping all your dudes at end turn for so cheap is just very strong, I think. Next up, Luminar Unleashed, a level 5 Enforcer evolution. So it can evolve on corrupted creatures or enforcers, double breaking, and whenever one of your corrupted creatures attacks, tap target enemy creature. So it turns all of your creatures into Blinder Beetle Primes, pseudo Blinder Beetle Prime, or Shakanas. Duh. Shakanas. It turns all of your creatures into Shakanas, all your corrupteds into Shakanas. Again, we see another strong, cheap corrupted creature. So in this color combination. So, I mean, this is definitely a scary card. I mean, we know how strong Blighter Beetle Prime is in the format, and having this guy come down on turn 5 on any kind of dude is just as powerful. I mean, he's not going to tap a dude when he comes into play, but he enables all of your other corrupteds. If you're playing really aggressive with the Aquan, the 2-drop Aquan, the 3-drop guy we just passed, you could have potentially, like, Christmas Land, you could have 3 dudes, yeah, which is 4 shields worth of damage coming through. And you just tap their blockers and give them all the way. Don't even care. So, and at 7k, he's definitely going to rumple over a lot of blockers on turn 5. So, definitely a card to keep your eye out for. It is a 4-star, and I'm sure it looks magnificent as a foil. That art's pretty sick. So we'll see what happens with this guy. I can definitely get behind giving him a rating of 4, because even as an Evo, like in an enforcer list, because this kind of stuff opens up the door for light water enforcer rush. Even in an enforcer list, it's not as good as a Blinder Beetle Prime, but I mean, it's still pretty strong. Moving forward here, we have Reverberate, level 6. Draw a card for each shield you have. I'm not sure how to feel about this. I think it can be very, very strong. It's a very strong card in something like a control mirror. In an aggressive rush matchup, obviously not as good. They're going to have you dead or down to 1 or no shields by turn 6. So obviously then this would hit the shield mana zone, but then it is a double mana, so it is going to come in tapped, which can also be very relevant in the rush matchup. So I mean, we got to kind of see where the meta is to kind of gauge where this card is going to fall. But generally I like it. I mean, drawing a card for each shield you have. Maybe you've stabilized and you just dropped an Andromeda and it's a control mirror and you've got like 6 shields, 7 shields, and everyone's just kind of playing off the top of the deck, and you rip your Reverberate, boom, insta hand refill, just as good as drawing a Tritonus. Well, I mean, obviously you don't get a body, so maybe not just as good, but I mean, like, just getting that edge. We've seen how crippling having that many cards in hand can be in the late game with that much mana in like a control mirror. So Reverberate, I think, will definitely see some play, and I would be comfortable saying a 4. I would definitely give this card a 4. Obviously, if your meta is very rush dependent, that rating goes down. You don't want to be playing this in a rush meta, but yeah, a 4 comfortably. Next up, we have Skyvault Mech. It's a 2-drop Corrupted Mecha Thunder, 3,000, 2-drop 3,000. So just an aggressively costed dude. Unfortunately, nothing can really evo on him except for other corrupted creatures. So I mean, there's that. We see another cheap corrupted creature, which is just like pushing the viability of corrupted creatures. So we'll see what happens with this guy. He could be like a filler just to keep the corrupted decks really aggressive, and he could be something you'd run into and have an issue with. 2 at 3,000 is pretty aggressive. I mean, there are certain 2-drop blockers that are hybrid colored that will keep up with this guy in cost, but your opponent has to be playing them, and if they aren't, then you're gonna have some issues. I mean, you compare this to something like a turn 2 Cyber Scamp, and it's like, well, yeah, the Scamp's really good, but it's not gonna be able to swing into this guy. So in those matchups, you're gonna have the edge. See, I went ahead without giving it a number again. I just don't know how to rate these guys, because they're corrupteds, because they could be just really strong base cards for that deck. So but generally, let's just give it a 2, because it is a tribe that doesn't have support, Mecha Thunder on that side. So like, the only way you're gonna really want to play this dude is in a corrupted list. So that's how I would justify the costing. Yeah, it seems pretty good in a corrupted deck, but if you wanted to play it in anything else, not so much value. 2 for 3,000. You'd almost just want the Cyber Scamp. Moving on, we have Corvus Dragon, a level 5 Celestial Dragon / Terror Dragon. It's Evo, so it has to go on a Celestial or Terror Dragon. Twisted Fate. Whenever this creature attacks, if you have the same number or more shields as your than your opponent. If you have the same number, or that doesn't click in my head very well, but I understand what it means. Banish target tapped enemy creature, and then if you have fewer shields than your opponent, you may put the top card of your deck into your shield zone face down as a new shield. Now, initially, and it's 10,500. Initially, I felt this card was very strong, very, very strong. Reading it again, I'm not as sure. If you have more shield, like if you're matched with your opponent in shields, or you have more shields, then what are the odds of you catching one of their creatures tapped? You know what I mean? Like, if it's tapped, they either attacked a dude, which is okay, whoa, they got you, or they attacked a shield, and in that case you're gonna have less shields. But like, the ability to come back from behind and just get a new shield, when you're is very strong. I mean, we've seen it. So And having it on an Evo means it's just as good as having it on a fast attacker. I can see this card scene play. I think we can see a resurgence maybe of Terror Dragons being played a little bit with the guy that gets your dragons back from your yard to your hand. With some of the efficient discard we have, control decks might want to start looking into like dragon builds again, and being able to play this guy and Lyra and the Terror Dragon that's good, and maybe even looking at some of the other Terror Dragons that aren't seeing a lot of play right now, just so we can, get bait for this 5-drop. But I mean, even Celestial Dragons, if you stick a Lyra early and then you can put this guy on top of a Lyra. But that being said, it's like I said, like if you're tied or ahead, being able to blow up one of their tap dudes doesn't seem that crazy. I guess like if you're tied and you Storm Spark Blast them and then you Evo, or you had the Evo in play, then that's obviously going to be Value Town. Like swing in a dude, kill that other dude. Like it's just nuts. But the Nutter Butters, I guess. But we'll see if this guy finds a home. The art's definitely pretty sick. I mean, there's a lot going on there. I'm not quite sure. Like he's all magnetically held together. His arms are held on with electricity and stuff. Pretty cool art. But I'd give this guy a 3. I think he's definitely playable, but I don't know that he'll find a home in a deck. Moving on then to Lamplighter, level 4, Mecha Thunder Dreadmask, Vanilla, 5500. 2. Probably, well, I can't give it a 1 because it is a level 4, 5500. Like that's just a big dude early, which is very strong against certain rush decks when you just drop him and just start turning him sideways and your opponent can't counter swing into him, and you can counter swing into everything they have. So you definitely can't underestimate the aggressively costed cheaper creatures. Next up we have Madwatcher, level 3 Enforcer Spectre, blocker, skirmisher. When there was creature is banished, your opponent discards a card at random. 1500. My gut reaction is not good enough, is what I think, is what pops in my head. But I think it probably actually is pretty good. I mean, you drop this turn 3 after they drop their Cyber Scamp, and now you've got something that can kill a Cyber Scamp, that can at least save you a shield against something like a Lux, and then punish your opponent for attacking by getting a random card. Like, you cannot underestimate the power of discard a card at random. Obviously, there's a lot of variables, a lot of variance possibility there where, yeah, you could hit something really crazy, or you could just hit, like, not even something relevant that they would have probably just mana zoned. But, again, you have to think with any of the discard spells or anything that makes them discard, you're making their mana decisions tough, especially if you can do it to them early, and disrupt them enough so that their late game, they kind of have to really think about prioritizing the ability to play stuff later to being able to survive against what you're doing to them at that point. So I'm gonna say a 2 just because it is 1500. Yeah, I can come down and block and make them lose a card, but it seems a little underwhelming at where they costed and powered it. If it was like a 3-2000, then I would be very more comfortable giving it a higher rating, but I think for now I'll just give it a 2. As if they're gonna change it. For now it'll get a 2 if they decide to errata it with more power. Next up we have Panic and Disorder, 5-drop Shield Blast, tap target enemy creature, and your opponent discards a card at random. Extremely strong. Removal spell, pseudo removal, and get a card at random. Tapping a dude down, I would assume you would build a list where you would have guys in play on turn 4. Like, even if you played the level 4 comes into play, they discard a card at random, and then they had like a tiny dude in, and then you swung into the tiny, and you do this, and you get another card at random the turn after, and then swing into their dude. I mean, like, that's pretty backbreaking to get, a card at random and knock out a dude. Like, you're punishing their hand and their board state at the same time. Obviously, you have to have the right things going on for you, and you have to be a little proactive for this to get that value. But I think that's definitely strong. I would have no qualms giving this a. And it's an uncommon. That's so weird. It just feels odd because we got our cycle of dual civ shield blasts in the last couple sets at about that cost, and now we get one here and it's an uncommon. But see, now I'm reconsidering my rating just because it's an uncommon. No, 4. I will give this card a 4. I'm like, oh, an uncommon, can't give an uncommon a rating of 4. No, we'll give it a 4. Panic and Disorder, 4. Next up, Bodyguard Vorg, 2-drop Mecha Thunder Berserker, 3000 with Protector. I mean, we're seeing these utility cards for Rush, the ability to like throw this guy under a bus to save something like I mean, even like a Jet Thrust Darter, to save a Jet Thrust Darter so that you can still have your you can think of the card name, the guy that comes into play, and if you have another fast attacker, he has fast attack. I mean, just being able to save a fast attacker so that he's still live is very strong. Like prioritizing and making them really think about how they can swing into your dudes. And I mean, he's aggressively costed. It's a level 2 for a 3000. That just seems very strong. And right now we don't have removal for protectors. We don't have like a thing that says blow up target protector. So protector is going to be a very interesting mechanic that adds another layer to playing against certain decks. I will give this card a wow. I mean, it's not none of those tribes are supported, but that, I mean, if anyone has piloted or played against a light fire rush deck, I mean, those decks are pretty scary. They can be pretty quick, and the ability to protect, hell, even Mecha Thunder Blitz Mech Velcora with this guy is just very good. So a 3. I'll give him a 3. Yeah, I feel comfortable with 3. Next up, Crash and Burn. Look, another 5-drop Shield Blast uncommon. Tap target enemy creature, and banish target enemy creature that's power 2000 or less. Man, again, it could be very strong. Like tapping an aggressive guy and then blowing up one of their other dudes still seems pretty reasonable. Like if you're playing those colors, we'd assume you're playing some sort of rush, unless you're playing like an America control or some sort of Dragon's List. Then it'd be more of a removal spell rather than get a dude out of the way so I can swing in. But I wouldn't rate this as high as the other one. I don't think blowing up a dude at 2000 or less compared to discarding a card at random, I wouldn't put on the same pay scale. But then again, if the shield breaks and you're on the back ropes, tapping a dude that hasn't swung yet and then killing a dude seems very reasonable. So we'll have to see how these compete against the cycle of spells that we've seen from our previous sets. I will give this one a 3 as well. I will give it the same level as the previous. Oh no, I gave the other one a 4, didn't I? No, I'll give this one a 3. Yeah, this one definitely not as good as the other one in my opinion, but we'll see. Maybe the waxing a creature in inclusion with tapping one is very strong. The art, by the way, is I find this kind of weird. Like obviously this portion of the art gives you the idea of like crashing and burning maybe, but then you've got these dudes like getting rocked by the shockwave or whatever, and that seems like oh, I guess I'll banish a okay. Okay. I talked myself into into the art. Moving on. Dawnblaze Patrol, a 3-drop Storm Patrol Stomper, 4500. So we just have an aggressively costed aggro tool. Doesn't evo into anything, I don't think. I could be wrong. Is there Stomper evo? Not sure. I don't think there is though. So meh. 2. Like again, aggressively costed, but like you could try and play this in a Starseed, like it just gives Starseed Squadron another tool, but then they'd have to splash red, which is, you know, traditionally not as strong of a splash for that deck. So stick by that rating of a 2. All right, Volcano Dervish, a level 4 Skyforce champion Melt Warrior. So here we see a Melt Warrior Evo. Protector, Double Breaker. At the end of each of your turns, untap this creature. Now I took a break between recording my red and this, so now I can't remember how the Melt Warrior was costed, but I mean, we don't have very many Melt Warriors, I don't think, so the ability for this guy to untap and protect your other guys is very strong, I think. I mean, like on top of being able to double break, he can also untap and protect your turn 2 drop or your turn 3 drop, depending on what you put him onto Evo. So, or even your turn 1 if you're playing a Blaze Belcher. I mean, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. This guy's pretty sick. So, I mean, we've seen how strong Saberbolt is, and that might just be, this just might be just as good, because then he untaps at the end of turn, and he can protect one of your other smaller dudes. So, we'll have to see where this guy goes. I put him at a 3, just because we don't have that many, like, chase baits for him to go on top of. Like, putting this guy on top of a Skyforce champion might not be as fun, because they're all so aggressively costed at, like, 5, or not aggressive, but they're so high cost at, like, 5 or 6. So, he might not be as great in that situation on his champion, but on a Melt Warrior, probably definitely worth it. Next up, we have Beam Bloom. Beam Bloom. Star Sentinel Treekin, level 4, 3000. During your opponent's turn, each of your other creatures gets plus 2000 power. So it's like a weird Essence Elf. Like on your opponent's turn, it's a better Essence Elf, and on your turn, it's nothing. So definitely like a 2 or a 1. Like having them bigger on your opponent's turn isn't anything to like shrug at, but it's definitely not anything to get really, really excited about. So just an interesting utility card. Next up we have Chief Toto, level 5 Skyforce champion, Spirit Totem, Protector, and Ancestor's Bliss. While you have the same number or more shields than your opponent, this creature gets 3000 power as Double Breaker. So I think we're seeing here another card for like a Starseed Squadron deck where you're trying to be a little aggressive, and then you drop the Starseed Squadron, and then you drop this guy, and it's just more positive pressure. Or it would be like before, you can like he's a turn 5 Double Breaker potentially, which is, you know, very strong. I mean, we've seen how strong the level 4 evils are that can double break, and this guy being able to come down on level 5 without needing to be on top of anything is probably just as strong. So I would feel fine putting this at a 3. I don't know that I feel comfortable putting it like a 4 or 5, but definitely at like a 3. I mean, even not too bad with a Starseed Squadron, because the buff is enough to get him to the double breaking if they happen to be ahead of you in shield count, and then he can help you just swing the game. So next up we have Hunter Sphere, Battlesphere Beastkin, level 4, 3000, blocker, skirmisher, powerful attack. Gut reaction 1, just because we have better things we could do at 4 mana in Beastkin deck. We don't have Battlesphere support, blocker and skirmisher with powerful attack. So like he swings into dudes for 7k on turn 5 or turn 4 maybe if you sprout it on your turn 2. Like it's just not that impressive. The art's kind of interesting, I guess, but yeah, I'm definitely not that impressed with this dude. Moving on, Stratus Beetle, level 2 Storm Patrol Megabug, charged Carapace. Whenever this creature enters the battle zone, choose one of your other creatures. It gains +1000 power until the end of the turn. At the end of the turn, untap it. Interesting. A Megabug, like trying to fit, like, in right away as soon as you see Megabug, you try and fit it into the list. We've seen lists kind of shine away from running so many Homunculon Blasters just because all that tap mana is kind of hard, or all those cards that do come into play tapped in your mana zone are kind of rough on Megabugs. Sometimes you're waiting on that clutch turn 6 mana and you rip it and it's a tap land. You're like, shoot. And your opponent gets another draw step to answer one of the Evo baits for your the Hive Queen that's stuck in their hand, or it gives them another chance to knock the Hive Queen out of your hand. So, I mean, but the ability to buff your guy by a little bit, which is kind of whatever, but just to have the guy come untapped is probably something we shouldn't underestimate. I mean, it would even save something that's been Lyrid, which is pretty common. I mean, if they Lyra a dude, it's gonna miss that untap steps. Then you just play a Stratus Beetle and target it, and then at the end of that turn, it'll be untapped, and your opponent's Lyra can't counter swing into it and kill it. And there's definitely utility there, and at level 2, it's extremely tempting. Not bad. I mean, that's a really good cost, 2 for 2000 with the tech utility ability. So definitely a 3. Maybe No, I'll stick by a 3. Like, it needs to be tested. We need to see what it can actually do in a Mega Bucks list if it's actually that scary. So, next up, Emergency Protocol. Level 7. Draw up to 2 cards, choose up to 2 of your shields, then break them. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, drawing 2 is good because it's a +1 because it replaces itself, and then you get an additional card, and then like you have to be playing like Cyberlord Coral to be able to like know what your shields are. Like, looking at the raw numbers, this is a draw 4. You can draw, or it's a +3 because you can draw 2, replace itself, and get an additional card, and then break 2 shields. And if they draw shield breaks, they're going to your hand. But at 7 mana, I think it's too little, too late. Like, against a control deck, yeah, that might be okay. Like, it'd be like that amount of card drawing would just be like really sick. But with how much good rush we're going to see in this next meta, or what I feel like we're going to see in this next meta, I just don't think there's going to be enough time to doodle around with, drawing a card, because it replaces itself and then draws you an additional card, and then it says choose up to 2, so you don't have to break 2. You can just break 1 or none. But I mean, like, a 7 to draw 2 is just and I just don't know that we're gonna have time to doodle around with that much card draw. So I'll give it a 2, a 2.5, because like in the control, again, it is pretty strong, but it's the rush, you just don't have enough time for that silliness. Essence Shade, we got a Corrupted Spectre, level 3, 2000, and gets each of your corrupted creatures plus 1000. So it's just a lord that bosses corrupt creatures. I mean, it's aggressively including itself, so it's a 3 for 3000. That's really odd. It's a 3 for 3000 that buffs your other ones, which can be pretty good. I mean, we're just going to have to see how these play test. I'll give it a 3, tentatively, and we'll see where it goes. Because there were some aggressively costed ones in those other color combinations, if we remember correctly. So, I mean, getting this guy in play and making them even bigger could be just really hard for your opponent to deal with. Yeah, and at 3000, he dodges some of the global wipes. Fate's Hand, a level 2 spell. Choose target creature. If it has power 3000 or less, return to its owner's hand. Otherwise, it gets negative 3000 until the end of the turn. I don't know how to feel about this one. Like, conditionally bouncing a small guy or making a big guy a little bit smaller is not really as strong. When it's the other way around, where it can either, like, we have Scalding Surge from the previous set, where if it's, so small, then you kill it, and if it's bigger than that, then you bounce it. That's definitely value. This, the other way around, not so much, but I think they know that because they did cost it at 2. So I will give it a 2 only because it is costed at 2. If it were costed at 1 or any higher than that, I think this card would have a really hard time seeing play. It can act as a pseudo removal if you make something that's bigger than that smaller, and then you swing into it, answering that problem of that creature. But it just seems so underwhelming, and I could be wrong because it is so cheap, and it might just be good to have a cheap utility spell like that, but I don't think so. So I'll just stick it at 2. Next up, we have Sabotage Worm, level 5, 2000. Whenever one of your corrupted creatures attacks, your opponent chooses and discards a card. When we look at the curve of corrupted, we have something as early as turn 2. Christmas Land hand, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. We can have 3 dudes swing another turn. We drop this guy, which means 3 cards out of their hand, or at the very least, a net loss of, or a no net gain off of their shields. So, man, I gotta give it a 2, because it's just at 5 mana, just dropping at 5 for 2000 just seems really underwhelming when you can be dropping the dude that gives all your dudes blocker, or even having just a removal spell on that turn, a Grip of Despair at that same cost to get a dude out of the way. It just seems stronger than having a Sabotage Worm. Yeah. Next up, the Reviled. Level 7 Corrupted Chimera. Evolution. Consume. For each corrupted creature you have in your discard pile, tap 1 less mana to summon this creature. Alright. Double Breaker. Spawn. Whenever one of your corrupted creatures attacks, choose a creature in your discard pile and return it to your hand. This card can be fiddled with. Let's look at this here. An evil 7-drop evil. Man, this card is kind of scary. I'm gonna give it a 4. If you just really think about where your late game is gonna be, like your mid to late game, if they've stabilized, that means you probably have some creatures in your yard, which means this guy's probably gonna be cheap, which means you can drop him on top of any of your 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop corrupteds for probably cheap. And he does double break, and when he attacks, he recurs a card out of your yard. I mean, even if they kill him, you're still going to get value because you recurred a creature from your yard. So I think this is a very strong card. I think you definitely need to build around it a little bit. As far as trying to utilize chimeras in addition to corrupted, which might, lower the usefulness of the corrupted claws, but there's just so much value in some of the chimeras that you have access to, as far as being able to kill themselves and detriment your opponent and then also make him cheaper. I think this guy's got a lot of potential, and I could be wrong. He might just be too slow, even if like you do have creatures in yard. I think it just all comes down to your testing, but I think 4 is a reasonable level to give him. Moving on, Ballistic Skyterror. 4/5000 attack raptor corrupted. Corrupted bait, I guess, if you want to play the red with the corrupteds. So far it's looking like the black blues and the blue whites are going to be very strong. Your Esper colors for corrupted are going to be a very strong option, but we'll see what else we have here for corrupted blue reds. Meh, a 1. I mean, it's corrupted, but it's also an attack raptor, so no support outside of a corrupted deck. Up next, Blitz Commando, Corrupted Stomper, level 3. All of your corrupted creatures have fast attack. Very strong, very scary. Yes, definitely strong and definitely scary. I mean, anytime you can give all of your X creatures fast attack, that's a very strong thing. I mean, we saw it when we had Hyperspeed Dragon, and then we got better Hyperspeed Dragon with Steam Tank Cryon, which did see slight play, and then now we have this guy for corrupted. I mean, you look at how strong some evils are, and it's because it grants fast attack, so you can't underestimate the ability to be able to just come into play and swing right away. Level 3, Cyber Trooper. It's a Cyberlord Stomper. Powerful attack 3000, threat analysis. Whenever this creature attacks, look at the top card of your opponent's deck. 1. Like, being able to look at your opponent's top carded deck, yeah, it's like pseudo hand knowledge, but sticking in on a body that doesn't fast attack and is just 1000 when it's sitting idly tapped is just not as appealing. Maybe if you wanted to, like, for sure play something like a burning Blurple, where you're playing like Grixis, so black, darkness, water, fire. This might be very strong because then you can play the Scalding Surges reliably get red, but again, it's a 3/1k when it's sitting there, and seeing your opponent's top carded deck is just kind of it gives you like card knowledge, but sometimes that's just very depressing to know what your opponent's gonna draw. Sometimes it's awesome, and sometimes it's just like, wow, I think I'm gonna lose this game. Next up, Frantic Blast, 7-drop Shield Blast. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a creature, banish target enemy creature that has less power than it. Put the revealed card into your hand. Odd. I think it costs too much. Because again, if you look at it, you will only draw that card conditionally if it's a creature. If it's a spell, nothing happens. You just Shield Blasted and gave your opponent knowledge of your next card without getting any effect. Or you hard cast this out of your hand and got no effect, and just got, you just zeroed, you just not, you wasted a card. You're down a card to have done nothing. So like weighing the odds of it working with it not working, and maybe hard casting it at 7 mana, it's just, I don't see this card seeing a lot of play, so probably a 1. Just such an oddball card. Bad Apple. Man, they're just getting all kinds of clever with their names here. Level 4, Corrupted Wild Veggie. Rotten to the core, all your wild veggies in the battle zone are corrupted creatures in addition to their other creature types. And Scattered Seeds. Whenever one of your corrupted creatures attacks, you may put the top card of your deck into your mana zone. This is a very strong card. This is very strong. No doubt about it. Being able to turn on any kind of corrupted triggers in your deck with just having this guy in play. Not to mention, like, ignoring the corrupted thing, he straight up reads, whenever one of your creatures attacks, you may mana ramp 1. Like, he's just better than Bronze Arm, not Bronze Arm, Bronze Arm Tribe. Yes, Bronze Arm Tribe, the one who, or even no, Bronze Arm Tribe triggers when he comes into play. His younger brother, the 3-drop one that attacks and mana ramps. Like, you drop this guy in turn 4, and if you're playing it in a proper, like, a certain list, you can have 2 other creatures in play and mana ramp 2 immediately and be at 6 mana on your turn 5. Not to mention anything you might have or no, you wouldn't have ramped otherwise. But I mean, I think this is a very strong card. As a super rare, probably, just because it does globally grant corrupted and globally grant mana ramp whenever anything of yours attacks. So a 4. I would give him a 4. Right now, those colors aren't seeing a lot of play. Like, you can play him in, like I said, I didn't say, you could probably play him in something like Who to Big Stuff, aka Ramp City, where you're trying to abuse triggers off of Boran, the Reality Shaper, and that would be very strong. I mean, when you go to Alpha Strike your opponent, every time you attack, you're getting a trigger on your Boran, or on your Kurgar the Hordes, and boom, you could be just really overwhelming your opponent. So next up we have Bronze Arm Renegade, and it's a 2-drop corrupted beastkin. Each time one of your corrupted creatures we banish, put your mana zone instead. Very strong. I mean, we saw there's another one already that we previewed that does the same thing, where if it would die, it would go into mana, and this guy just grants it to all your corrupteds. Not to mention that he is just another 2-drop beastkin that would go to mana if he dies. So now you have the ability to, turn 1 Prickleback, turn 2 this guy, turn 3 the other guy, turn 4 Evo. Like, there's just so much reliability now in the curve that I just can't not see Saberbolt, some variation of Saberbolt, making a comeback this upcoming set. I would give this a 4. It's like a 2-drop that goes into mana when it dies. I mean, Manapod Beetle. This is Manapod Beetle for Beastkin. So next up, Crystal Pulse. Now, is it just me? Okay, I'm gonna have to do this. Can I do this? No, I can't. This looks like crystallized, doesn't it? This art. Crystal Pulse, 5 Shield Blast. Reveal the top card of your deck if it's a spell that has Shield Blast. Cast it for free. Otherwise, put it into your mana zone. So either this is such an odd card. I think I like it. As stupid as that sounds, as like weird and conditional as it is, like if it's in your shield zone and they blast it, it's either going to turn into something better, or it'll mana ramp you and set your next turn up to do something to them. Obviously, if your format is very aggressive, I mean, this keeps coming up in my review, but if your format's very aggressive, this is probably just not good enough. You don't want to touch it. But I mean, in a control matchup, being able to just either like ramp and get ahead of your opponent, just we know how strong that is. We know how strong it is being able to drop your finisher first and apply pressure before they can get their field set up to counter swing or to respond with the same amount of aggressiveness. So Crystal Pulse 3. Oh yeah, I like it. I don't know that it's good enough, but I like it. So next up, Tainted Quartz, 4-drop Corrupted Spirit Quartz. Each your corrupted gets 2. So this is, I mean, the quartzes that we had from the previous sets. Now we're seeing one for the corrupted. I can't remember how we we did our scale for the last set of videos. I probably should have looked before I did these, but I think we're gonna stick to the one with 1 through 5, and I think we gave these 1s because they're just like whatever. They are what they are. The old ones didn't really see play. Like it's a 4-drop 4,000. Oh, it gets itself, so it's a 4-drop 4,000. It might be better. 2. I'll upgrade it to 2. I think it's better than the other ones because the other ones, like, they give plus 2,000 if it has both colors, and this just flat out it's like plus 2,000 corrupted skull. So that could be pretty strong. Yeah, I'll upgrade it to a 2. Next up, Telenor the Stormer, Tsunami Dragon, Earth Strike Dragon, evolution. So you have to put it on a Tsunami or Earth Strike Dragon. Double breaker, and whenever one of your creatures that has 6,000 or more attacks, you may draw 2 cards. Here's the only problem with this card: no one plays Tsunami or Earth Strike Dragons. Like they just don't see play because they're just not good enough on their own. And I think cards like need to stand on their own if the evil is going to be good enough. Like this evil seems very strong, but the cards that you're going to put this evil on need to be strong enough where if you don't see the evil, you're still going to be able to survive. Now, again, we see here that it has blue in it, so we can be playing Crystal Memory, so we can potentially be running, you know, technically 6 of, 3 Crystal Memories, 3 of this guy. But again, the things you want to put this on need to be able to stand on their own, or need to come down early enough or cheap enough where you can reliably get this guy with fast attack. But he will always replace himself. We know how strong that is as well. Emperor Neuron, obviously unblockable, is very strong. But I mean, the fact that when he attacks, he draws automatically is just like, if they kill him, it's kind of like, yeah, you got him, but I have replaced him in my hand, so it wasn't like I'm that sad. So, and this guy gives you +1 on top of replacing itself. So, potential, but like I said, you'd have to go back and look at Tsunami and Earthstrike Dragons, see if there's anything worthwhile playing. I say that, and now I'm thinking of the birds that are in that colors, and I'm like thinking of those colors, and it's sounding more and more appealing. Oh man, I'm gonna give it a 3. I'll give it a 3. As much as I complained about the bait that you could possibly put this on, I will give it a 3. Oh, so dumb. All right, moving on. Boom Skull. I think we're into the last color here, so we're nearing the home stretch here, people. Boom Skull, Protector, Guard, go boom. Go boom. When this creature wins a battle, banish it. 2-drop, 6,000. I want it to be good. Melt Warrior. See? Okay. I'll give it a 3. That's pretty aggressive. It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, 2 for 6,000. Yeah, it can't counter swing into things, but it can't counter swing into things. It is bait for that really sick Melt Warrior, and it does only cost 2. So I mean, you can't really complain about that. 2.5. I'll give it a 2.5. Flamespine Ravager, Spectre Dragon, so it has to evolve on a Spectre or a Dragon. So Dragon. It'll probably almost always evoed on a Dragon. Whenever this creature attacks, your opponent puts a top card of their deck into his or her discard pile. If it's a creature, banish targeted enemy creature that has less power than it. I think it's just, oh man, Dracon, man, it seems really strong in an aggro mirror, to evil this on a Dracon and be able to whack some of their dudes. Like, even if they have something like Lyra in play and you do this and then mill something like, I don't know, their Eternal Haven, then you can wax Lyra off the face of the earth and it can't counter swing into the other small dudes. This guy might see some play. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of dark fire rush lists, but this might give it the little bit of oomph that it needs to be a viable deck strategy. So I give this a 3. Definitely a 3. Infernal Taskmaster, level 4, Shadow Champion, Rock Brute. Whenever one of your other creatures enters battle zone and gains fast attack at the end of the turn, if that creature attacked this turn, banish it. Ugh. I don't know how to feel about that. That's so weird. I don't think that's good enough. It comes down to turn earlier than anything else in the game. That'll gain fast attack for all of your guys, but that trade-off, man, I think creatures still hold so much value in this game because there are no other ways to win besides using them, that I don't think that you can just throw them away like that unless you have something like a Gregorius Fortress in play where, yeah, you'd be swinging, but then you'd also be getting like value on shields and waxing their board. I mean, it's risky. So maybe we'll see some really really adventurous people trying to pilot some lists with this guy, but I don't see him doing a whole lot for us at champs. I don't know that any of us are going to be willing to anyone that's playing in the main event or grinding is going to want to, you know, put their put their chances at making it into the champs, or, you know, making it, placing really high in the champs on something like this where you're consistently going to be, you know, potentially shooting yourself in the foot. So I'd give this guy a 2. Oh, he's a scary guy. Lava Tube Crawler. See, and then they put this guy right after this guy, and you're like, oh, maybe. Level 3, 2000, Rotworm Dune Gecko. Protector. Whenever this guy is banished, target enemy creature gets neg 1000 until the end of the turn. So, I mean, here we have a guy that gets a bonus when he dies. But I don't think that negative 1000 is enough. You know what I mean? Like, it'll hit a Cyber Scamp, it'll hit a bird, a Nyx, and an Umbra, I think, as well. But, like, eesh. 1. I'm gonna give this guy a 1. 3-drop 3000 XT4 Brute Fist. What a weird looking guy. Skull Spikes. Whenever this creature is attacked, it gets Slayer until the end of the turn. I mean, here's another example of a card that could maybe push Dark Fire Rush into being a thing, but it is a Stomper Dread Mask. It doesn't really evo. Nothing can evo on it, but it will almost always be a 1-for-1 if they do decide to swing into it with a creature. And it is costed pretty high, so even some smaller creatures at that cost cannot swing into them. At least the ones that are seeing play now, because they have utility in them, they can't give them that much power. So, I mean, he could be a house. He could be pretty scary. But the problem is that it only triggers when attacked and not when attacking. So he can't swing into something to get it off the board if it's really scary. So, a 2. I'd give it a 2. Cackling Fiend. Oh, I thought we were on the last color combination. I was wrong. Last 8 cards here, people. 7 cards. Cackling Fiend. Level 3, Chimera Beastkin, 6000 Skirmisher. And whenever this wins a battle, banish it. It's just a weird bait card. Like, bait card / pseudo removal. I don't think it's good enough because it doesn't have fast attack. Like, you'll just put it in play and then they'll be like, oh, that's kind of whatever. I mean, it's like playing a Jackalax or Jet Flame Bodyguard. It's kind of like, well, he's scary, but I think I'm probably gonna still attack here. So I could be wrong, but like level 3 bait on a Beastkin or a Chimera, I mean, that's still pretty reasonable. So I give it a 3 because it is so aggressively costed. I'll give it a 3, no problem. The art's kind of crazy. It's got like 2 heads going on, some wings. Oof. This is yep. Japanese art. Next up, Fear Feather the Scavenger, Chimera Treekin, level 3 Evo. Whenever this creature wins a battle, your opponent discards a card at random. Then you may put the top card of your deck into your mana zone. I mean, the upside on this card is just so strong. Like, you have to have won a battle, so you got a card out of a field. You get a card out of their hand at random, and then you get to ramp 1 and set yourself up on like a 3-drop Evo. So, albeit you're only going to see this on Chimeras because no one's really playing any Treekin right now. But against an aggressive deck, this will be fairly strong. Against a control deck, it's just another fast attacker. You just hold it in your hand and wait till you can Evo and swing in and pick up some shields with it. It doesn't double break because they cost it at 5,000, which is probably super intentional. At 6, they would have probably given it double break, and then it would have been very strong. As it is, probably a 3. I don't know. Maybe we'll see resurgence of Chimera decks, and I mean, we could. Definitely not out of the realm of possibility. So a three for now. Looming Devourer, level 6, 6,000, Protector, Double Breaker, Slayer. I like it. It's like just really straightforward. They have to Terror Pit it. I think the problem right now is there's so much tempo, so they could just bounce it and be like, oh, okay, swing. The thing that makes this card scary is that it is 6,000 and it has Slayer, so it can like rumble over the top of a lot of smaller things, but then it can also swing into big scary things and kill them. And it does double break, so you can apply a lot of pressure very easy. And if they don't have the shield blasts, I mean, it's going to cost them dearly to get rid of this guy. Either by not advancing their board state and using a removal spell on him, or swinging one of their big dudes into him to just get him off the field. So this guy's got a lot of potential for rare. Probably a 3. Like I said, there's a lot of tempo in the format, so it might just be not good enough. But I'll be optimistic. Shadow Strike, level 4, Shield Blast. Choose one of your creatures. Target enemy creature loses power equal to that creature's power until the end of the turn. Dark Squadron, maybe this could see play in. If you're playing like Starseed Squadron, you play this and you trigger the buff and you stack the buff, do the buff, pick their guy, wax their guy off the field, swing in, get shields, win game. This is strong. I think this is pretty strong. Obviously, as a shield blast, like, you have to have creatures in play for it to be very effective, but it's kind of like, it's almost like fight, but better. Because you just pick a big dude and it could just kill it. Even if you're playing against a rush matchup and you have your rush guys and they have their rush guys, you just pick your biggest rush guy and pick their smallest and get it off the board. You don't have to worry about it. The weird thing is that, like, it's going to be most beneficial if you can kill one of their untapped guys, because then obviously if you have a big guy that can kill a small guy, then you're going to want to be able to you could have just swung into him if he's tapped. But this is just another trick. I mean, if they're pretty confident, they swing in, their whole board is bigger than your board, and then you just do this, make a dude small, swing into the dude, then that could be very effective with all these corrupted creatures even running around, just turning off one of their abilities. So I will give this a 3 comfortably. Skulking Cypress, zombie treekin, 3-drop, 2,000. When this creature enters mana zone, each player chooses a card in his or her hand, then puts it in his or her mana zone. You know, 2-drop, get a card out of their hand, they mana ramp with it. Like, I think we've seen how poor allowing your opponent to mana ramp has been, just with something like Crystallize. Like, yeah, you get rid of the dude, but then they're giving them mana, and I think against the control and the mid-range decks, giving your opponent mana is just never a good idea. Even if you are making them get a card out of their hand, it's just, I don't know that the trade-off is really worth it there. So I'm gonna give this guy a 1. Oh my god, another color combination. Armored Sentinel, a 3-drop Draken Beastkin, 3,000. Protector, and each of your other creatures that has Protector gets plus 2,000. So it's a Protector Lord. Wow, they just like tack it on in like one of the not as great color combinations in the game. Like Draken Evo Bait, Beastkin Evo Bait. It's kind of whatever. I guess you could. Yeah, I mean, here's more. It's, I guess, another testament to the potential to play Saberbolt deck. I mean, you could play Drakens and play some fast attackers and play the Beastkin Evo and play this guy, and I mean, he'll protect your other guys, and then if you're at the Evo, you just slap it on top of him and start rumbling in there for shields, and then you have your fast attackers and Drakons. And, I don't know, it's kind of an odd card. 2. Corporal Pepper. Man, all these veggies. Get crazy with these veggies. Red Hot. This attacks each turn to Fable, and Pickled if the creature would banish putting your mana zone instead. So Just another dude that goes into mana when he dies. Not as strong because you can't evo on anything on him, and he does have to attack. I really generally don't like those unless it's a turn 1 drop, which is, you know, Blaze Belcher. So I'm gonna give this a 1. Ugh. Like it's aggressively costed, but it's just I don't think it's worth it just having a dude that has to attack and having to play around that. Emblazoned Giant, Attack Raptor Colossus, 7-drop, 7k, double breaker. 1. It's just, I mean, you could evo on it, Colossus, but it's pretty meh. The art's kind of crazy, I guess. Victory Gunner, and this will be the last card in the set here. So 5-drop Stomper Beast can evo. Whenever this creature becomes tapped for the first time each turn, untap it. Mana charge rounds whenever the creature attacks, and we put the top card of your deck into your mana zone. I love this card, I really do. The ability to untap the first time it is untapped is very strong. We've seen it in the previous set, and just adding the ability to mana ramp on top of that is just sick. I mean, this is better than a Mana Storm on turn 5, because you're applying pressure and you're ramping yourself to apply even more pressure the following turn. It's just very strong card in my opinion. I don't know that I might eventually play test this card. These definitely isn't really my typical color combinations that I play, but I think this could be a force to contend with in the meta potentially. So I'll give it a 5. I have no problem giving it a 5. So there you have it. There was our multi-civ review for the set. I think that was a little longer than I anticipated, but that's how these things go. If you were on the playlist, you just finished, congratulations. And if you're not, thank you very much for watching.